Hi, Pattie Simone here with WomenCentric, and we're at the NJAWBO procurement event in Edison, New Jersey, and I'm talking with Linda Schmidt, who's the CEO of a company that's called Schmidt Associates, and she's got a great business going. She's doing really well. She's been around a while. I'd like her to give her some information about what she does, maybe some of the challenges that you faced when things were down a few years ago and what you did to sort of, keep pace with stuff, and any tips that you can share for other women in business and men who are in business to help them grow and sustain.
Okay. I have been doing an executive coaching, a leadership coaching and consulting business for about 10 years, building on a very substantial corporate executive career. So what I did in the tough years was actually focus with clients on what my clients now use the phrase with me all the time, being their shortest route to additional cash.
I love that. When you said that with Joe Connolly, you made a comment there, and that's very, very important.
One of my clients created that phrase, and he introduces me to people like that. And it's a business of 120 people maybe. This is our shortest route to additional cash. And it's removing the roadblocks, getting the management and the leadership techniques down, not let anything get in the way. Just kick those roadblocks aside and really hone in on a practical and a human-centric level, both. It's very business specific, but essential that people get some self-awareness about what they're doing that doesn't necessarily serve the business. And that is harder to do than you might think when you're the owner, and it's probably true of any entrepreneur, any business owner. And as women are starting businesses, I was asked today what is the biggest challenge, and one of the things that I see across the board, it's not just women, but across the board, is the feeling that they have to know everything about the business, and they can't be successful and they can't lead other people until they know all that. Well, the obvious limitation of that is that is your limitation of where your growth is. What you know is what's possible then. Anything else you don't know is simply not going to be in the realm of possibility. So how do you make the possibilities bigger? How do you have a problem solved from left field with a completely different perspective? That's essential. The other thing that I did was hone my own skill in finding the sweet spot between myself and a client's need, my capabilities and a client's needs much more quickly. And I think that probably happened because of the pressure to create more business. And in that pressure, boy, there's nothing like adversity to to build character and to build capability.
And it's funny you say that, because I was at the Women Leadership Exchange Conference this week in New York City. I was one of the panelists, and the thing that someone said to me is, what is not in your bio that we need to know about you? And I said, failure. Because nobody normally mentions that in their bio. They're all focused on, I did this and I did that and whatever. And we all, of course, want to be proud of our accomplishments, and we need to recognize that. But many of those accomplishments happened because of failure. So things didn't go right, and then what do you do with that?
Absolutely. I think one of the phrases that I often use with clients is, obviously, anything that's a learning experience from a mistake, it's not a mistake anymore. No. It's a learning experience. And then the collaborative part and the open, you don't have to know everything, is, as a kind of a more humorous note, tell them you don't have to make all the mistakes. You can learn from other people's mistakes. It's really not necessary that the only way you gain it by tripping yourself down the ball. And I try to remember that for myself too. Right. One of the great things about the kind of business I'm in is that when you're working with clients, you're always growing and learning from them as well. And even when you're listening to yourself, there's a voice in my head going, are you really listening to this? This might apply. Pay close attention. It could work for you. And it's, and I think that's probably part of the success, that whereas a success as a consultant is not telling you, I know, you don't. Right. It's really much more collaborative. I have seen much more challenging situations, consultants who get themselves in much more challenging situations than I have found myself in, because they are adamant that they know and the client doesn't, whereas I want the client to own it and know it with me. So And I'm not, and I'm using their knowledge and building on it with mine, and they're taking mine and building on it with theirs, and that applies in the leadership coaching, it applies in the strategic consulting that I do, it applies in all of it.
And you would think by now, with all this information out there about how team and collaborative and having differences of opinion, especially, I mean, I know they have this in the technology sector, but you would think that after it being in the news for so long, that people would just get that this is a mindset. And if you have this mindset and you're relinquishing what you think is control, right, and letting other people do what they do best, you can profit from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But it is amazingly hard. When you think about it, it's lifetime patterns in many cases. Yes. You talk about owners of companies, presidents of companies, senior VPs who are in their 50s. Somewhere earlier in their career, it may have been a command and control model. Or that was the whole venue they worked in. So now they are trying to make the shift, and it's not as easy to do as to say. They know the right language, but they still, fortunately, if they working with a leadership coach, they have complete trust in someone who can pull them aside afterwards and say, excuse me, did you notice how quickly you default to threaten? It was subtle. The language has changed. It's not the same old, harsh language of threaten, but it's very subtle, and it's still there. And they're like, oh, really? Again? I thought I had that. And they do have it, but they're human. Right. And it's forward, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. They're trying, but it's hard to change a lifetime habit.
But the good thing is once you make that decision, once you're aware of it and you make the decision, you're at least on the path to progress.
Absolutely. Once there are, yes, exactly. They are continuously making progress because they have decided this is what they're going to do. They understand loud and clear, whether it's personally comfortable or not, they understand loud and clear they have to do it differently if they really want a sustainable, wildly successful company. Right. And not just a run-of-the-mill company.
So where can people find out more about you and what you do?
lcschmidt.com is the website, and 973-383-6903 is a phone number that always works.
Okay,
thank you.
Great. All right, well, thanks so much for sharing all that information, and I hope some people, take a critical look in the mirror, because the bottom line is sometimes the person holding you back is you. So think about that. And maybe what you can do, conversely, is the person who's responsible for making that change is also you. So ball's in your court.
Thank you.